I thought I'd take a couple of minutes and talk about something that isn't pure politics. I love pure politics, elections and lobbyists and scandals, but this is kind of more the consequences of politics, and that is what is happening in the state of Iowa with the serious budget deficits that we have. We know that we've had a series of cuts in state budgets. They've hurt all kinds of organizations. The predictions for 2011 are not very good at this point. And we know that those are part of a bigger picture, the world economy, the U.S. economy, declining consumer spending, and all those things. What I want to take a couple of minutes to remind you of is that we have three Regents universities, state universities in Iowa. We have a lot of community colleges as well, of course. The land-grant university, which is where I am at Iowa State, is a university that was specifically created right around the Civil War in order to provide all kinds of students the opportunity of getting an education beyond their school, their public school. Actually, Abraham Lincoln signed the first of the Morrill Land Grant Acts. There were several of those, and the idea was to train people in the practical arts, but also in other areas. And I just read the Morrill Land Grant Act, and it has references to other arts and so on. They had to stick in military strategy and military training to get it through Congress. So things have always been kind of the same. You got to stick something in there that maybe initially you didn't want, and so that's why we have, I guess, some of the ROTC programs as well. State budget cuts have begun to really undermine the idea of public universities, accessible and very low cost for the mass of citizens of states. That's not just true in Iowa, but it is true in Iowa as well. All of the tuition and fees and other things have been increasing, and that's partly because the cost of delivering an education has gone up. We need more equipment, more sophisticated laboratories and computer labs and all kinds of infrastructure, and especially in sciences and areas like that. It's also because the students at one point began to expect something better than a plain dorm. They wanted apartments. They wanted condominium-like dorms with living rooms and nice kitchens and rec areas. And so we have upgraded continuously, and that has driven up the cost. We thought that that was reasonable when the economy was booming. Now that the economy is declining, not only has the cost gone up, but the ability of students to pay for it has gone down, and the state's budget and budget contributions to these universities is shrinking. So these universities, although we call them public universities, really are becoming private universities because the state is reducing its funding to such an extent that at some point it is only going to be a marginal percentage, a small percentage of the operating budgets of these universities. And I think that pushes us sort of politically in a direction of asking the question, at what point should the public universities either just become private universities and operate with all the freedom and all the entrepreneurship that private schools have? Or at what point do we need to remind ourselves, our legislators, our community leaders, that we need reasonable universities to send our students to so that we can have an educated workforce, citizens, people who can do a job with a proper education and can do so without incurring enormous debt. And I think that's something that we should remind ourselves of in 2009 as we experience these very dire and difficult budget cuts and increases in university tuition. And I hope we'll go beyond the notion of just we need to cut budgets and ask ourselves, are there any ways of generating additional streams of revenue without putting those on the backs of the students who are coming into these institutions? So that's my assignment to the governor and my assignment to the legislature is find ways to make these universities remain public universities, which means accessible and reasonably priced. All right, we'll see you in insideriowa.com See you later.